What made the bully at your school cry for your help? Chris ruled 8th grade with an iron fist, so when he told us no talking to the weird kid, well, we didn't really have much of a choice. Of course we felt bad. The only thing Anthony did to get on his nerve was talk about coding in class. Yup, that was it. Coding. Because apparently, coding is for people who can't play sports or talk to girls. So when Chris got paired with Anthony for the language arts class presentation, Chris immediately got angry. You do the whole thing yourself, got it? That's fine, Anthony said, and went back to coding on his laptop. And that was the thing about him. He never fought back. Even when he had to sit alone at lunch working on their presentation, he never complained. It was unfair. So one day, when I couldn't take it anymore, I sat down with Anthony at lunch. Hey bro, what's that? His eyes lit up. It's my Valorant strat book. I've been analyzing the way that 100 Thieves play and oh sorry, he said, suddenly embarrassed. Oh no way. I'm a huge fan of them too. Do you play? His eyes widened, shocked that someone was actually willing to nerd out with him. We spent several minutes excitedly chatting about our favorite maps until the bell rang. Hey, here's my IGN. Let's play tonight, I said, typing it into his laptop. That night I got to know the real Anthony. I heard him rage at others, saw him lead our team online, even laughed at his crazy jokes in the game, and I got to see just how insanely talented he was at computers. File corrupted during a match, recovered it for me. Game crashed, restored it. He managed to teach me all his computer stuff without ever making me feel stupid. Never bragged, never showed off, and it bugged me even more knowing just how many people weren't able to see how cool he really was. So during one session I asked him, hey, do you ever get mad at Chris? You know, for the things he said and did to you. Well, his dad and my dad are co-workers, and I saw that his dad puts a lot of pressure on him. So I get it, Anthony said simply. That's when I realized Anthony wasn't just smart. He was probably the kindest person I'd ever met, and he was stuck eating alone because Chris decided coding wasn't cool enough. But it all changed one Thursday. Chris strutted into the cafeteria carrying his dad's laptop. Check this out, he announced to everyone at our table. $3,000 machine. My dad's presenting to Japanese investors at 3 today. He started clicking around, showing off. This thing's got more RAM than Anthony's entire setup. Of course he had to bring Anthony into it. Watch how fast this processes, Chris said, opening random programs. He clicked into disk management trying to show the specs. See? 500 gigs of the screen flashed with a format complete before restarting with every single file gone. The entire table went silent. Chris's face drained of color. He frantically searched through every folder, every program, but it was empty. All empty. His hands started shaking. My dad needed those files later. Just re-download it, someone suggested. We don't use cloud storage. My dad's gonna lose the contract, then his job. He's gonna disown me for real this time, he said, voice pitched higher from his panic. Tears started welling into his eyes. Kids pulled out their phones to record his demise, but not Anthony. Anthony closed his laptop and walked straight over through the crowd of kids with their phones out like he was Captain America, ready to save the day, but even more epic in person. Stop clicking, he said calmly. You're overwriting the data sectors. Chris looked up at him, face red and blotchy. Get away from me. But his voice was weak, desperate. Chris, I can get your files back, but you need to stop touching it. Right now. Chris stared at him for a moment before nodding slowly and whispering, please. Anthony sat down and opened the command prompt. His fingers flew across the keyboard. Your dad's smart, Anthony said while he worked. He had shadow copies enabled. The files are still here. The crowd pressed closer. Everyone watched as Anthony typed command after command. Then suddenly, folders started reappearing on the desktop. The PowerPoint, the spreadsheets, the contracts, everything. You should tell your dad to set up cloud backup, Anthony said, closing the laptop and sliding it back to Chris, just in case. Then he stood up and walked back to his corner table. No big speech, no, you're welcome. Chris sat there staring at the laptop, clicking through file after file to make sure they were really there. And they were. The next day at lunch, Chris picked up his tray and sat beside Anthony. So I heard you play Valorant, he said, sitting down. Mind if we run some games tonight? Anthony looked up from his laptop, surprised. Yeah, sure. And just like that, the rule was dead. Nobody announced it. Chris never apologized publicly, but suddenly it was fine to talk to Anthony, fine to sit with him, fine to admit that coding was actually pretty cool. That weekend, the three of us hit diamond rank. Anthony clutched a 1v4. Chris hit a nasty flick shot. And me? I was just happy knowing people finally saw just how cool Anthony really was.